first off, let me tell you about a 6'4" German goalkeeper that absolutely dominated throughout the 2010s. Now, there are few players, let alone goalkeepers, that induced as much fear as Manuel Neuer did in a bunch of attackers. And during this guy's prime, he just gave off an aura of physical power and domination. Going into any game, whether it was against Germany or Bayern Munich, seeing Neuer behind the sticks was like asking for trouble, because you were going to be shooting at an iron giant. And in the 2014 World Cup, his aura had truly maxed out. Playing as Germany's last line of defense, a sweeper keeper, this guy would dominate. He would redefine what it meant to be a goalkeeper during this tournament, snuffing out attacking opportunities and actually playing midfield at some points in games, with his radiating confidence just spreading throughout the team. And at times, Neuer's presence would be so imposing that opposition strikers would just, flap at opportunities that they would usually score, except from the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo, who has, the most goals as an individual scored against Manuel Neuer. But genuinely, at times, Neuer's presence would just be so overwhelming and strikers would start to fail. Like in the 2014 World Cup final, where Gonzalo Higuain found out for himself. In this game, Higuain would have multiple opportunities to bury Manuel Neuer, and even though he might have put one past him in an offside position, realistically, when you watch the game back, there were wide open opportunities. One where, a German player had headed the ball back. Higuain was in an onside position, is one-on-one with the goalkeeper and snatches at the shot, because Manuel Neuer is just there looking like an absolute beast. If Higuain had a bit of composure and calmness in this scenario, maybe it would be different. But Manuel Neuer, being in goal, he definitely imposed some sort of threat on Higuain, because earlier in the game, I think there was a scenario where, Higuain had gone for the ball over the top and Neuer had come out of his box and just punched the ball, whilst also completely flattening Higuain. It was moments like this that sprung up throughout his career that cemented him as not only, a German legend, but also one of the greatest goalkeepers from this time, putting his body on the line, but also his reputation. Because one wrong move and this could have been a red card, with the hand coming out of the box or his knee going too high. But no, he times it to perfection, and it turns out that he's just dominating his territory and makes a mark on Higuain in the game, making him shudder at the opportunity of scoring against him. And it's not just me saying this that cements that, because Neuer was named the best goalkeeper in the World Cup 2014 and also helped Germany lift the cup in the end. And from a legendary goalkeeper that could absolutely body an attacking player to a striker that actually scored against this said goalkeeper, we briefly have to talk about Didier Drogba, because this is a guy that was not only clutch in club competition, scoring in final after final, but also a man that helped stop a war. Yes, the Ivorian striker had aura on the pitch and off it, and not in the silly sense that, Didier Drogba had a ponytail and just looked cool. No, this guy had real aura, where he would walk into a country, his home nation, and stop a war. Back in 2005, after helping lead Ivory Coast to World Cup qualification, he would make a post-match plea on live television. And with an entire nation watching, Drogba would talk to the masses, begging Ivorian countrymen to lay down their arms and end a civil war that was ongoing in Ivory Coast. He laid out his intentions and emotions on a digital canvas, and the entire nation heard him, with this incredible speech eventually leading to a ceasefire after 5 years of conflict. Like, this is real aura, some superhero type impact on an entire nation. Only Drogba can claim to have this. And with this happening back in 2005, Drogba's stocks would just keep on rising, and he would get better and better season after season, slowly becoming an icon in football history. He would build a reputation as being a striker that turned up for the big occasions, scoring 12 goals in 17 finals he appeared in for Chelsea, whilst winning 11 trophies. And though he's often overlooked in the grander scale of the best strikers of all time, I think personally there hasn't been an archetype since the departure of Drogba from the game. In terms of his brute strength and power, no one comes close. The mentality to top it off, but also the clutch ability to finish off in the moments when no other player rises. Drogba had it all. Now, back in 2017, Arsenal missed out on the Champions League spot for the first time in 20 years. They were consistent from 1998 to 2016/17. They were in there every single season, and that's what made Arsene Wenger the GOAT. But what made this season even worse for me growing up as an Arsenal fan was that during the season, the eventual title winners Chelsea played us in a game at Stamford Bridge, and one of, the most disgusting solo goals would occur right on our heads. And of course, who turned up? Eden Hazard, the BBL Messi. And of course, prime Eden Hazard received the ball on the halfway line and said, fine, I'll do this myself. As he received the ball, he made our best centre back at the club, Koscielny, already trip up. He then easily breezes in front of an oncoming Francis Coquelin and holds him off with, of course, his backside. Hazard's backside must have enchanted Francis Coquelin because he had some sort of possessed exorcism reaction and fell straight to the ground. Hazard's then in a 2v1 situation. He skims inside and out of Koscielny and boom, vintage Hazard. And a lovely goal against my beloved Arsenal, Hatem Ben Arfa. Now Hatem Ben Arfa is one of them players that you can't forget. He was just filthy and brilliant at times, but had a career shrouded by, lack of discipline and just disobedience. But he was class. He was a North African descendant that just showed glimpses of technical brilliance and flair whenever he could. And unfortunately, his career at Newcastle wasn't the best, but he showed these signs, these really little sparks where he was just balling out. And one of them was this goal against Bolton, where he just touched it from the halfway line and drove like literally a Nissan GTR straight through this Bolton defense. No one could get near him. He pushed it through, and bang, finished it off. Such a brilliant goal. Now the art of a solo goal is that of a lion in the midst of a pack of hyenas, because very few times will a lion come out unscathed, but when it does happen, it is absolutely brilliant and something to marvel at, and we should cherish it for years to come. Now back in December of 2013, Premier League fans probably witnessed the best individual performance in a Premier League game they had ever seen. And this wasn't just any game. This was a game between rivals. Rival birds. Yeah? The liver bird and the canary. I don't even know if the liver bird is a real bird, but two birds went up against each other in this clash between Liverpool and Norwich. And in this game, by the 90th minute, there would only be one man we would be talking about, Luis Suarez. Now going into this 90 minutes, Luis Suarez had scored 7 goals in his last 3 games against Norwich. But no one was expecting what was about to happen in this year's game at Anfield. And it didn't take long for the ball to get rolling, because in the first 15 minutes, Luis Suarez opened the scoring with this, a generational strike on the volley from nearly the halfway line. He scored a 40-yard half-volley lob against John Ruddy in goal and acted, nonchalant, like it wasn't really one of the best goals we had seen in the history of football. Because if I scored this, even on the playground back in school, I'm just going to go up to the head teacher and I'm just going to punch him for no reason. Luis Suarez didn't even really care. He was just smiling. And this was just the first goal of 4 that he would score in the game. His second coming in the 29th minute with more of a traditional striker's goal, where the ball would come in from across and instinctually he would just finish the ball into the back of the net. Again, not with his head, but with a volley. And then the third goal came in around the 35th minute, and my oh my. This guy scored an entire catalogue of goals in one game, because he gets the ball's bouncing, he flicks it over a guy, and then just, contorts his body and volleys it again into the far right of the goal. This is no easy finish. This is a generational goal for most players. But Luis Suarez scored about 3 generational finishes in the same game. This was not normal. This goal would seal a first half hat-trick for Suarez, but it was not over yet, because Suarez wasn't done. In the 74th minute, Liverpool would get a free kick. And who do you think stepped up to take the free kick? Luis Suarez, on a hat-trick already, buries the free kick into the top corner. What is going on? This is not even real at this point. This was not football. This was a game of score hero. 2013 to 14 Suarez needs to be talked about more, because not only did he do marvellous things that season, but he was also suspended for the first part of the season, missing a bunch of games. And also, he wasn't Liverpool's penalty taker. So imagine if he was their penalty taker and he also wasn't suspended. Imagine how many goals he would have got. Now, back in 2018, Manchester City were poised to win the title at home in a game against Manchester United. All they needed was a win. And with a squad with the likes of Kompany, David Silva, Prime Gundogan, Sterling, Leroy Sané, you were thinking that they were going to do it. Number one, win the league, but number two, humiliate their rivals. The script had already been written and the movie was underway because Manchester City in the first half were 2-0 up. Vincent Kompany scoring and Ilkay Gundogan scoring a brilliant goal. But at half time, things were about to change and it was down to one man. Paul Pogba. Let me not lie, it wasn't just Paul Pogba, it was Alexis Sanchez and it was also David De Gea in this game. Now, coming out in the second half against Man City 2-0 down, there must have been a lot of thoughts going through the head of Paul Pogba. And this was mainly because he was getting heavily criticised going into this game after dyeing his hair on international duty. Pogba's hair was blue, the same colour as Manchester City, and to me and you, that means nothing. But to media outlets at the time, they absolutely ridiculed Pogba for lining up to play Manchester City in one of Man United's most important games of the season with blue hair, like he was some sort of undercover agent spy in the game. No, the blue hair doesn't matter, guys. And in order to really prove them wrong, Pogba had to step up in this second half. With the help of the likes of Alexis Sanchez, Nemanja Matic, Ander Herrera, Pogba would make a late run into the box. Alexis Sanchez would loft the ball in, Ander Herrera would chest it into the path of Pogba, and Pogba would finish it off, making it 2-1 in the game, forging what looked like a comeback. But would it really be a comeback? Yes, it would, because 2 minutes later, Alexis Sanchez again puts a ball into the box and it's Paul Pogba running in from deep who heads the ball home, making it 2-2 just like that. He has just scored for Man United in a red kit whilst having blue hair. Anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
And after this moment, it was like all the adrenaline had gone to these Man United players because they were playing with a spring in their step. And it would be Chris Smalling who would head the ball home and actually win the game for Manchester United. David De Gea would also pull off some really crucial saves in the game, but in my opinion, with the storyline behind it, it was Paul Pogba that really forged this comeback. Now, this next guy that we have to talk about pretty much defines the word aura. A player that many of us may have not seen actually play football during our lifetimes. But if you rewind the tapes, look back and really delve into who this guy was, he was aura. We have to talk about Eric King Cantona, the guy with the controversy, swagger, and the ability to do it all. Even, Kung Fu Kick fans. Because if aura was a person, it would be Cantona. With his collar rolled up, this guy had the sauce. He would have a presence on a pitch that would never be replicated, puffing out his chest and looking regal almost, looking down on his opposition, whilst also being the front runner and face of Nike during his early years. He would be the guy that you saw in every single advert growing up. And that's all because of his reputation that he earned on the pitch. Because despite all of these theatrics that you must hear about in these stories that are told on podcasts, this guy was actually an amazing player. A skilled technical Frenchman that had the ability to just change a game and flip it on its head. He would lead Manchester United to win 4 Premier League titles in 5 seasons, spearheading their 90s dominance in the league. But realistically, it wasn't the stats that really made Cantona Cantona. It was the moments. Like his chipped goal against Sunderland back in 1996, where he would chip the ball over the keeper, and for the celebration, with his collar puffed up, he would just, have his hands out and just peer away in a circle, embracing in all the glory. It was moments like that, but also his daring ability and presence that had a direct effect on the younger generation coming through, with the class of 92 directly being impacted by Eric Cantona's ways. Cantona would lead an army each time he went out onto a pitch, and he had, an amazing effect on all the players in this Manchester United squad. And despite having this dangerous edge to him where he would kung fu kick a Crystal Palace fan back in 1995, it was still mostly positive, his effect on the club and their trajectory in general. Because after serving the ban for that action, he would go on to lead Manchester United to a Premier League title and an FA Cup, where in the final he would score the winning goal. Let's talk about Lionel Messi versus Arsenal back in 2010. And with the first leg at the Emirates, it was like Arsenal actually had instilled some sort of hope, because this first leg would end in a 2-2 draw. I was gassed. It did not matter. We did not lose. 2-2. Yeah. And even though during this time away goals, did exist, we had some optimism going into this second leg against Barcelona, against Lionel Messi, with the likes of Bentner up top. And going into this second leg, it would be the GOATs going up against each other. Nicolas Bentner versus Lionel Messi. And in 18 minutes, it would be one GOAT that showed up. Nicolas Bentner would score the opener at the Camp Nou, putting Arsenal ahead in the game and filling my head with hope, dreams and happiness. But in the 21st minute in the game, we would come back to reality, because Messi would pick up the ball after a little mistake by Arsenal, and in a flash, with the quickest movement I've ever seen, 1 minute I'm looking at the ball, next minute the ball's in the top right hand corner of the goal. Lionel Messi has just made it 1-1 on the night, and we might be cooked here. And 12 minutes later, he did it again. Can somebody get this Smurf off the pitch? Eliminate him ASAP. Put 10 men around this guy. We need to contain him. He scored 2. And before I could even blink, before I could crawl to the halftime whistle, it would be Seydou Keita who headed the ball. And somehow the defense has gone missing, because this header broke the lines, sending Messi into a 1v1 situation where he was in on goal and Almunia was the only person that is, challenging him. And of course, Messi would do what Messi does, chipping the ball with ease over Almunia and making it 3-1 after we had gone 1-0 up in the same half. This is childhood trauma. And not only did he score a first half hat-trick, he would top it off in the 80-something minute, right at the end of the game, with another goal. At this point, peppering the Arsenal goal, Almunia actually pulled off a save. And then the ball goes back to Messi and he just blasts the ball through Almunia's legs. And it's 4-1. We're done. Now, of course, just like you, I've been keeping up with the Champions League. And going into this game between Barcelona and Inter Milan, I did not expect the star man on the night to be a 17-year-old. Now, in the first 3 minutes of this game, Marcus Thuram would put Inter up with a marvellous little back heel finish into the back of the net. But Barcelona would seem unfazed, playing their game as usual, with the likes of Pedri and Lamine Yamal absolutely dictating everything that was happening. But against the run of play, it would be Inter Milan again that would capitalise, with Denzel Dumfries scoring an acrobatic bicycle kick to absolutely stun these Barcelona players. But no, after this moment, it was like Barcelona just stepped up a gear or two, moving the ball quicker, and again, the likes of Pedri were getting on the ball, and also Lamine Yamal. He would be the man to ignite the comeback, light the fire in the bellies of these Barcelona players. Because in the 24th minute, these Inter Milan players were giving him too much time and space. He would drive on a little solo run, cut inside, and bang, whipping it, hitting the post and going in. This was a satisfying goal, with the sound of the post reverberating through the stadium. Lamine Yamal had just pulled out a wand and zapped these Inter Milan defenders. Marco, Bastoni, they could not get close to Lamine in this little moment. But it wouldn't just be this moment that Lamine Yamal would stand out. It would be this and the entirety of the game. Not only did Lamine Yamal ignite the comeback, but he was constantly creating throughout the 90 minutes, sucking in the defenders and also causing havoc down that right hand side in the entirety of Europe, leaving honestly the players on the pitch but also the manager speechless after the game. Because on a luckier occasion, some of the moments that he had in this game could have gone his way. He was absolutely unstoppable in this first leg tie against Inter Milan in the Champions League semi-final. And argue all you want in the comments below about him not really having a 10 out of 10 performance, because number one, they didn't win the game. He only had one real goal contribution. But no, I'm taking into account that this is a 17-year-old raw prospect turning up in the Champions League semi-final against one of the best teams in the world and ruling the entirety of the game, dictating the play, Players are looking to him to give the ball. It was him and Pedri that really took this game to a different level. Now, this sport of football often provides us with moments of brilliance, beautiful actions that create marvellous memories. And after watching Arsenal take on Real Madrid at the Emirates Stadium, it's safe to say that football is still in great hands. Because last night in the Champions League, I witnessed the greatest game that I've seen as an Arsenal fan. And it wasn't just great because I was an Arsenal fan, it was great because I'm a fan of football. I'm a fan of great moments, memories that get made on a pitch. Storylines, rivalries, debates, it all came down to this fixture in the quarterfinals between Arsenal and Real Madrid. And on the night, it did not fail to exceed our expectations. Every thought that we went into this game with was completely blown out of the water, because there were murmurs of people saying Real Madrid were going to thrash Arsenal at home. Or on the opposite side of the spectrum, Arsenal fans were saying, maybe we'd scrape a 1-0 win. But no, on the night at the Emirates Stadium, the biggest game as an Arsenal fan I've ever seen, Arsenal and Arteta dropped an absolute masterclass. A Champions League masterclass, beating Real Madrid 3-0. And without further ado, let's actually dive into what happened in the game. At the start of the game, it seemed to be balanced, with Arsenal's midfield actually dominating. But there were a few counter-attacking situations where Real Madrid could have punished the Gunners. Vinny Jr. had a couple opportunities to take on Yuri Timber down the left-hand side, but failed. And Mbappe had a few chances in the game, wearing Air Max 95 football boots. No wonder you couldn't finish this chance. He was one-on-one with David Raya, having to open up his body and slot it into the far right corner. But no, David Raya did enough, but Mbappe actually failed to really deliver for Real Madrid fans. Because in that position, as Kylian Mbappe, aka one of the best players in the world, you should be eating that up all day. Breakfast, lunch, brunch, dinner, tea time. It does not matter. Late night snack. That should be dumplings. That was an easy chance that Mbappe absolutely bottled for these Real Madrid fans. But was I complaining? No. Gooners were rising during this time. And after that finish, I said to myself, yeah, Arsenal are winning 3-0. And anyone that, watched my Instagram story, they would know that going into this game, I knew Arsenal were not going to let this slide. Going up against Real Madrid at home, we weren't losing.
So Gooners rise! Rise!
We were playing like a cohesive unit. But when that second half came, just know Mikel Arteta had a word or two, and these guys really locked in. In the second half, Arsenal would come out the blocks and absolutely diminish any hope that Real Madrid had. Because unlike the first half, possession was not really 50-50. Arsenal had most of the ball. And on around the 60th minute, it would be our star boy, Bukayo Saka, that would receive the ball on the right hand side and just hold off his man, driving inside, inwards into the pitch and drawing a foul. It was like he had this invisible orb around him that didn't allow players to touch him, because if a player touched him, he was not going down easily. He would either ride the tackle or draw the foul instantly. And from this free kick that we would receive from the foul drawn, Declan Rice would step up. Now, if we're being honest, nobody saw this coming, because we did not know that Declan Rice had this in the locker. Because from this free kick, he would curl the ball around the wall, whipping it into the far right of the goal, leaving Thibaut Courtois, looking for shadows. I don't know what that wall placement was, but Rice absolutely abused it, putting the ball in the back of the net like he just scored a free kick on Score Hero. Declan Rice trusted his instincts and put Arsenal 1-0 up. But Gooners, that's not all. There was some more that Declan Rice had to offer. Now, after this free kick went in, it was like every single Arsenal player just got a power level boost and just started playing with even more confidence. They started to pepper the Real Madrid goal with, a chance that had Mikel Merino nearly shooting once, shooting twice, and Courtois being there, this man of steel in the Real Madrid goal, and not letting us actually score a goal from open play just yet. So after another failed opportunity and another shot on target, Arsenal had to do something. And again, it would be a free kick won in a dangerous position that Declan Rice would step up for. And a lot of credit has to go to Bukayo Saka in this game because he did win a lot of the fouls. He was drawing players in. David Alaba had an absolute stinker against Bukayo Saka, but what do you expect? This is one of the best wingers in the world. And again, Declan Rice steps up for his second free kick in this game. Surely, he hasn't got the ability to score 2 free kicks in a Champions League quarter-final. But no, this is Declan Rice. Jollof, Jasmine, long grain, short grain. It doesn't matter what kind of rice it is. It's Declan. This guy again bends the ball round the wall, slaps it into the toppiest top corners I've ever seen in my life. If there's a definition for top bins, this is it. This image of the ball going in that top corner, yeah, don't chat to me. When this free kick went in, I was finished. I did not know what to do with myself, because how on earth, number one, were Arsenal 2-0 up against Real Madrid, and number two, both of the goals came from direct free kicks. In football history, there has only been 4 other players to score 2 direct free kicks in the Champions League. Hakim Ziyech has done it, Cristiano Ronaldo has done it, Neymar Jr. has done it, and Rivaldo has done it. But now, a name that we can add to this list is Declan Rice. And the main difference between all these examples is that they all happened in the group stages of the Champions League. Declan Rice has just scored 2 free kicks against Real Madrid in the quarter-finals, where it actually matters. And even after this second free kick went in, Arsenal were not done yet. They were still pressuring this Real Madrid defense because it was not like the attack were doing anything. And we'll get onto that later. This time it was Miles Lewis-Skelly being direct with the ball, bringing it inwards into the 18-yard box before passing to Mikel Merino. And Mikel Merino, first time in an awkward position, would swivel his body with his left foot and strike the ball into the bottom corner of the goal. It is now 3-0 to Arsenal against Real Madrid. And the stadium's gone wild. The entire borough has gone wild and people were getting elbowed during the celebrations of this goal. I could not believe what I saw in this game, and Arsenal just ruled it from start to finish, eliminating every single, source of Real Madrid's abilities. And we need to talk about a bunch of things that we can take from this game. Now, if you watched the game, you would understand, but Declan Rice had to be the best midfielder on the pitch. Coming up against the likes of Valverde, Bellingham, Modric, Camavinga, it was Declan Rice, a guy that has been, completely overlooked in an Arsenal side where there are many other midfielders in football that get way more praise. He stepped up, and not only did he score 2 direct free kicks, but he was just all over the pitch, getting 85 touches, having 5 recoveries of the ball and creating 3 chances in the game. And another brilliant player on the night was Bukayo Saka. He would put in 9 crosses in the game and win 3 out of 3 of his duels, getting the better of David Alaba and any player that really came to go and challenge him. 18-year-old Miles Lewis-Skelly was also world class when it comes to his ball carrying in the game and just the ability to retain possession. He constantly is someone that you can rely on to just shield the ball and move it on. And again, he is up and down the pitch and just getting in the right positions at the right time. He did have a little silly moment which could have been a red, where he kind of kicked out against Jude Bellingham, and he is very lucky that it was the fact that he did that against Jude and he didn't make a really big deal out of it. But still, once he gets that sort of stuff out of his game completely, he has a ceiling that is one of the highest when it comes to just youngsters in football. Especially because he's playing in a position that is not the most competitive for Arsenal, the left back role. There is no one right now that can really challenge Lewis-Skelly for a place in the starting lineup. Now, Carlo Ancelotti's Real Madrid genuinely looked toothless throughout the entire game, and I don't know what we want to blame it on. Because even though Thibaut Courtois got absolutely buried 3 times in the game, he was arguably their best player, pulling out the stops, because this could have been a riot. This could have been 6 or 7-0. But he was there in some of their biggest moments when the defense absolutely looked invisible. And whilst we're on the topic of invisibility, let's talk about Mbappe, Vinny Jr. and Rodrigo, who I did not see once in this game. I was just completely, confused when watching Real Madrid in possession. Because other than little sparks of individual brilliance where, Mbappe would randomly take on 3 players and Vinny Jr. would do the same, they had nothing going for them. No creativity, no real game plan, and nothing that a Real Madrid fan can say, you know what, if that works out next game, then we're going to win. But if we're being honest, if Mbappe finished his one-on-one opportunity and just opened up his body, the game could have gone a lot differently. But no, Mbappe wanted to wear Air Max 95 football boots. This is the most shambolic thing I have ever seen on a football pitch. The game is completely in the bin. Who did this? Now, right now, going into the second leg, Arsenal have a 3-goal advantage, meaning that they could reach their first semi-final in the Champions League since 2008. Mikel Mourinho has also got 4 goals against Real Madrid in his career, more than any other team. And Arsenal have now become the 3rd English side to beat Real Madrid by 3 goals or more, after Liverpool in 2009 and Manchester City in 2023. Guys like Kiwior really stepped into this Arsenal lineup against Real Madrid and put on a really solid display. I can't really say that there was an Arsenal player that played bad. Thomas Partey was there when we needed him, a rock as a 6, just holding up the play. Martin Ødegaard, took a more reserved role in this game, but again, shifted the ball, moved it quickly, and did not let the pace die down. Martinelli as well was a constant threat on the left-hand side, and again, caused problems. Jurriën Timber was an understated piece in this lineup too, absolutely, neutralizing Vinny Jr. And this honestly has to be the best game I have witnessed as an Arsenal fan, because, I wasn't there for Arsenal versus Barcelona in the final, where we lost back in 2006. No, I wasn't there. The game that I was comparing this to the most was when Arsenal won 2-1 against Barcelona in the round of 16. But this is the quarterfinals against Real Madrid, and we've won 3-0. This wasn't a snatch and grab at the end of the game where Arshavin would score the last goal. This was a dominant display, and I am just in disbelief. But before we wrap up the video, I think we do need to address the elephant in the room. Is Mario Balotelli. And this one is kind of a stray pick, because at times Mario Balotelli was at the peak of football, having this aura as a young promising striker that had just come onto the scene and broke football. Learning about his backstory, the way he used to act off the pitch, but then seeing his ability on it, it was just strange to see. But at times you would see his form would dwindle and he would be, caught up in very silly articles online. Viral moments of him doing a roulette finish and missing pretty much an open goal 1v1 opportunity, or having a fight in training with the likes of Micah Richards. But the pinnacle of his aura came in Euro of 2012, where in the semi-final against Germany he would show the entire world how spectacular his talent truly was. Turning up like a one-man army, it was him and his 2 feet. And in this semi-final he would score both of Italy's 2 goals in the game when they won 2-1 against Germany, with the first in the game being a well-timed header thanks to a brilliant ball in by Cantona. He would peel off the defender and just pop it into the back of the net, evading Manuel Neuer's grasps. But the second would be some absolute different gravy. When you're making gravy, but you chop a little onion in there, you put it on the stove, you add a little bit of chili flakes. This was the second goal, with Italy's Montalivo just lofting the ball in the air in the direction of Balotelli. And with this ball somehow breaking the lines, Balotelli found himself in a bunch of space, and in a couple of strides or so, he would power the ball into the top right hand corner of the goal. Rarely would you ever see a striker just blast the ball in this scenario in the modern era. You would see, them trying to go across the body, put it in the low bottom corner. But this guy said, nah, I'ma just let it rip, Beyblade style. He would slap the ball top corner and then celebrate by just taking off his top and just flexing on this Germany side, looking like some sort of jacked kangaroo, just intimidating the entire Germany side. He just buried Manuel Neuer, a guy that we actually spoke about first in this video, just showing that aura can only be taken down by more aura. Yeah, that was not hard. That was not her. Scored by a man named Roberto Baggio, mistakenly known by my generation as the player that missed that penalty in the 1994 World Cup final. Now, although the Italian fans forgave Baggio for his miss, Baggio did not forgive himself. And now that moment is the one that people from the newer generation associate with Baggio. But 4 years prior, he scored one of the most brilliant solo finishes in football history. During a game against Czechoslovakia, Baggio picked up the ball from the halfway line. He takes it inside before playing a 1-2 pass combination before receiving it again. But now 2 players are coming to close him down. Like a jaguar pouncing on its prey, Baggio bursts through the middle of the pitch, making his way into the final third. Now one-on-one with the defense, he executes one of the most brilliant, elegant, single step over body feints I have ever seen. Sent in one way, he's gone to the shop. He's thinking about buying Christmas gifts. It's July. And while that guy's gone shopping, Baggio is not stopping and he bangs it in the back of the net. That goal was pure beauty. And if there's a player in football that I need to learn more about, it is Roberto Baggio, a man that my uncle named himself after. This guy clearly has a legacy. But in terms of a solo goal that put all of the world's eyes on a single player, none of them perfectly sum it up than Bale versus Inter Milan. On a cold October's evening in 2010, Tottenham took on Inter Milan in the Champions League. And the San Siro is where this battle commences, with the inevitable happening. Inter Milan 4-0 up. The night looks like it's done and dusted for Tottenham. But then something magical happens. A young Welshman named Gareth Bale decides to write his own script. The ball finds its way to Bale in his own half, and with an explosion of pace, the run begins. And this Inter defense that looked so solid moments ago becomes statues. Just as Bale turns on his jetpack, Bale looks like a man possessed and glides down the left flank of the football pitch like a gazelle. Most in this position would hesitate, maybe turn back, pass it off, or put a lazy cross into the box. But no, Gareth Bale decides to shoot, and that ball nestles into that far right corner of the goal. It's a statement, and after the goal went in, the San Siro fell silent. The away fans then erupt, knowing that they've just witnessed something great. But Gareth Bale is not even done yet. He scores 2 more, each one as dazzling as the other. And even though the game ended 4-3 to Inter Milan, Gareth Bale scored a hat-trick and could leave with his head held high. Is a game between Atletico Madrid and Juventus. A game that happened back in 2019, but feels just like yesterday. With the main premise being Ronaldo up against Diego Simeone's defensive unit. A newly energized Ronaldo coming off a transfer that saw him move from Real Madrid to Juventus. And in the Metropolitano in the first leg, Diego Simeone's army showed up to shut up shop against Cristiano Ronaldo. On the night, Atletico Madrid won 2-0 with Diego Simeone's men throwing everything they could at this Juventus front line, stopping every shot that they took, holding up the ball and hitting them on the counter. Ronaldo, being a newly formed striker, was locked up by the Atletico Madrid defenders, and even though there were chances here and there for him, he couldn't eat them up. And at the end of this 90 minutes where all the Atletico Madrid players celebrated, Diego Simeone showed his true character. A character that had lingered throughout his entire career. This was displayed in full show, taunting the Juventus fan base but also a former Real Madrid legend in Cristiano Ronaldo. And this gesture would linger within the heads of these Juventus players going into that second leg. Now during this game, Ronaldo entered the pitch with a mission to not only get back at Diego Simeone, but Atletico Madrid, a team that he had conquered so many times during his career at Real Madrid. He had a point to prove. He did not move to Juventus to be mediocre. It was time to make a statement. And I think from what I remember, he did just that, scoring a hat-trick in the second leg to lead Juventus to a 3-0 victory, with 2 high-flying headed goals and what else but a penalty to seal the deal. With the weight of not only his team but also his legacy on the line, Ronaldo stepped up for this penalty, slotting it away, in before running to the corner flag and hitting his famous celebration, with the sound of "Su" reverberating through the entire stadium. This was pure revenge, and it would go on to be even sweeter. Not only did Ronaldo celebrate with his usual celebration, but after this game had ended, he replicated the celebrations of Diego Simeone, taunting back the Atletico Madrid fan base, but also the Argentinian manager, showing that it was his actions that really ignited the flame within him to have this performance. And I think this moment was a clear turning point in Ronaldo's career at Juventus, proving that he was still at the top of his game and one of the best players in the world. And of course, looking back on it now, we know how much damage Ronaldo did during his time at Juventus. Now, this next one on this list involves Jose Mourinho returning to Stamford Bridge and taking on Chelsea for the first time since his sacking, also known to me as the return of the dead man. Now, back in September of 2007, Jose Mourinho was dismissed by Chelsea. After previously leading them to successful seasons, winning 2 league titles and also going on an amazing tier of form, Jose Mourinho was left in the dust, with his departure coming as a shock to a lot of Chelsea fans at the time, especially with the legacy that he created at Chelsea becoming the special one. But he moved on and eventually would go on to manage Inter Milan, a time in which Jose Mourinho saw some of the peaks of his career. And during Inter Milan's Champions League run that would go on to become so iconic, Mourinho came up against who else but Chelsea, an old foe to say the least. A team that still had some of his key players that he utilised during his time there. Guys like John Terry, Frank Lampard and Didier Drogba, who all thrived under Jose Mourinho, would have to go against him for 2 legs. And this of course triggered this revenge story within media during this time, with a lot of people saying that if Mourinho was able to get past the round of 16 and beat this Chelsea side, he would prove to them that he was bigger than the club. Now, this game started off quickly with Diego Milito scoring within the first 5 minutes, a striker that would go on to really rule this entire tournament. But Chelsea weren't backing down. Throughout the entire 90 minutes, they would pop off shots against Inter Milan, with Kalou having a penalty shout, Lampard taking shots, and Didier Drogba trying his best up against Walter Samuel and Lucio. And after half time, this Chelsea pressure would eventually cause the Inter Milan side to fold, with Solomon Kalou getting his goal. But this joy that Chelsea fans felt when seeing Kalou score was short-lived, because Cambiasso, a bald-headed beast, smashed the ball into the back of the net. This moment making the entire San Siro erupt. But Chelsea would go into the second leg confident, because to them at least they still had an away goal. A goal that would count as double if the scores remained the same. Could this Chelsea side filled with Mourinho's ex-misfits really do a job on Inter Milan? This would eventually be decided back at Stamford Bridge. And it seemed like this running theme of defence and attack would remain the same in the second leg. The game was filled with stray tackles and also stray shots, with most of them going wide, untidy touches and no real control on the game. Each side sharing the possession quite fairly. But eventually this disdain that the Inter Milan players had probably inherited from Mourinho came through. They wanted to go through as much as they wanted to win for Mourinho. And eventually it was Samuel Eto'o who breached the deadlock, sealing the deal for Mourinho's men late on in the game. But I think the real standout two throughout the entire tie were Lucio and Walter Samuel. These two were physically dominant and put their bodies on the line whenever Drogba came close to the goal. Interceptions, tackles, headers away, they did it all in this tie. And I think them two especially summarized this Jose Mourinho team, built on these foundations of steel. These two were the respite for the Inter Milan players, especially because they kept making mistakes against this Chelsea side. But time and time again, Julio Cesar with a black eye, Lucio and Walter Samuel were there to save the day, with this story of revenge ending in a humble post-match interview after the leg. But I think the true revenge is that Mourinho's side would eventually win the entire tournament, showing up not only this Chelsea side but also the entirety of football.
I'm not happy because Roman lost. I'm not happy because Chelsea supporters go home sad. I'm happy with our happiness, not with their unhappiness.
I think it's time to talk about one of my favourite players of all time, Neymar Jr. Now, young Neymar scored a goal for Santos in 2011 that would win him a Puskás award. And in this game against Flamengo, Neymar picks up the ball from where else? The halfway line. And with a flick of his magic boots, Neymar springs into action, and he's exuding this trademark flair that we all know him for. Now, Neymar takes off like the Flash, leaving Flamengo defenders in his wake. His feet were a blur of skill and precision. The crowd rises in anticipation as he dances through the midfield. And as Neymar enters the final third, he's in his element. With a feint here and a step over there, he mesmerizes these defenders. And they're lunging in desperation, but Neymar is one step ahead. And now in the penalty area, Neymar's one-on-one with the keeper. And with a flick of his wrist, he sends the keeper the wrong way. The stadium erupts in jubilation as Neymar is heralded as the new messiah of Santos. Even if he was to leave directly after scoring this goal, they would still make a statue for him.